Well, let's speak further about Imogen Mashazi's appearance at the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry. Bring into the conversation security strategist and retired Interpol Ambassador Andy Mashaile. A very good evening to you, Mr. Mashaile. Welcome back to SABC News. So these allegations then of sexual harassment, even rape that Mashazi made against the EMPD chief Mabie were the first hurdle where she basically got into trouble with the commissioners because she could not provide proof to support what she was alleging. How do you think she presented herself, especially on that score, given the seriousness of the claims and in particular the fact that she was criticized basically for having had knowledge by her account of this abuse, yet taking no action as the accounting officer?
Good evening to you and to the viewers. She presented herself recklessly, incompetently, and in contempt with the law. I mean, if you know that there's a rape has been committed and whoever the victim approached you, as the city manager, the buck stops with you from ethics and morality and operation within the confines of the law. She would have advised that victim to go and lay a charge of rape, and she didn't do that. And what does that make you? It makes you an accomplice to crime. And secondly, failing to produce evidence as in the number of multiple children in quotes fathered, failing to remember the number or produce the number, only tells you and I, Tembekile, that one is clutching at straws to throw Mabie under the bus. And let people of South Africa understand that you and I say when a crime has been committed, people must be prosecuted, people must be penalized, punished within the confines of the law. And up to so far, all the allegations that she threw at Ntate Mabie carried very little weight with regards to corroborating those allegations when quizzed by the commissioners.
And it bears repeating that ultimately we're dealing with allegations here. We're not making a pronouncement on Mabie's guilt or innocence because none of us know how much of this is true. And because there wasn't evidence provided today, that's why we are stuck in this dilemma, if you will, essentially on the veracity of these claims. But how much do you think Mashazi's appearance today has helped to pull the curtain back, if you will, in terms of the power dynamics, the politics, and thirdly, the rot within the city of Ekurhuleni and by extension, the EMPD in particular?
Tembekile, this testimony didn't shift the paradigm, didn't change the game as we would have expected in terms of what the commission is looking for. In fact, it creates further doubt with regard to the operations establishment, running, competency, capacity of leadership and accountability of all those who are at the reins at the city council in terms of the EMPD specifics. When you compare and contrast what Mashazi was saying to what Rivers Peace and Mr. Niza had put up before the commission, they are more credible in terms of one, even the notes that Commissioner Spies took in that meeting that transpired. I was deeply troubled by the evasive responses that were delivered by Mayor Mashazi. When it's convenient, she would take responsibility. When it was not convenient, she would say it belongs to HODA or B or C or D. Even when letters were copied to her or emails were copied to her, she would deny that those emails were copied until proven.
And one such case is to do with the 2023 controversial lifting of the suspension of the now again suspended acting Ekurhuleni Metro Police Department Chief Julius Mkhwanazi, who Mashazi is basically accused of having shielded from scrutiny and accountability for multiple alleged offences during his time in the EMPD. Yet she had been copied by her own admission on correspondence that went back and forth around that suspension in 2023 and what was meant to happen. Is it your impression from her evidence today that she did in fact provide him with executive cover that would have allowed him to then continue with this alleged reign of lawlessness?
Tembi, given her testimony, her conduct, her response, her playing with the phone or handling of the phone, showed that she would have provided enough cover, space, and platform for those who have been doing wrong things at EMPD. The blue light scandal or saga that was brought before her by the commissioners, and her claiming ignorance of the blue light saga or the blue light scandal, says to both you and I, we have listened and learned from the evidence led by others at EMPD, let alone the allegations thrown by Lieutenant General Ntantla, as they refer to him as Hurricane Mkhwanazi. Having those allegations thrown at EMPD, I found it difficult to can believe that she didn't have an understanding or knowledge of the issues of the blue light scandal.
I want to ask you about what she kept being challenged on, especially in the first part before lunch, the issue of evidence to support her claims, especially on the issues, the allegations that she made against the EMPD chief, right? And I would like you to help us perhaps in drawing a contrast, a distinction in the threshold for credibility or evidence at the Madlanga inquiry versus, for instance, the ad hoc committee, and how the two processes will ultimately lead us to some sort of credible conclusion.
When you juxtapose the two processes, let me quickly use Imogen Mashazi. When you juxtapose and do a comparative analysis of the two processes, you realize that in the Madlanga Commission, there is more hellfire that can come through to an individual who misrepresent facts or who misrepresent herself or trying to cover herself up. And that might lead to a referral to a criminal prosecution, Tembekile, as in the case of knowing about rape or gender-based violence and not calling for that individual to go and report a case of rape after cancelling that individual from your office or organizing counseling. Now, when you compare this process to the ad hoc committee, the ad hoc committee does not refer for criminal prosecution. Some individual members or parties can actually lay criminal charges, as we learned that the EFF were going to open a case of perjury against Ntate Cedric Nkabinde. The ad hoc committee has to do with a parliamentary process, accountability, and the oversight provided by Parliament through the Portfolio Committee on Police. The Madlanga Commission has to do with identification of criminality, corruption, political interference, which has at the ultimate end a prosecution or prosecutorial findings that would then be referred to the president in the form of a recommendation. And the president might say the Hawks or any other specialized investigations agency investigate these matters that have criminality in them.
Briefly then, let's cast our eyes ahead, in fact, to tomorrow, because that's when we're expecting the Police Minister, Senzo Mchunu, still on special leave, to face the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry. How should the inquiry begin to deal with his evidence in a way that makes or allows us to move forward in our understanding of what exactly has gone on here? Because Ntantla Mkhwanazi, the KZN Commissioner, placed him at the center of these allegations of interference as well as corruption in the police service.
I think the commission will be looking at the reasons, once again, for the disbandment of the PKTT. And why would they want to do that? They will want to test that against the allegation by General Mkhwanazi that the minister crossed his line of operation into police operations, which becomes sort of a criminal offense from the aspect of the minister lying with regards to disbanding the PKTT, misleading South Africans as well as Parliament with regards to some of the cost issues, the cost-benefit analysis that we were exposed to by the minister, saying the cost of running the PKTT advised him to disband the PKTT. And fast forward, classified information in the possession of Mr. Brown Mkhwanazi. Mr. Brown Mkhwanazi presenting himself as an associate of the minister, and many other things that have been corroborated by the witnesses, speaking to the allegations as proposed or put forward by Ntate Mkhwanazi. Fast forward, looking at what Cedric Nkabinde said at the ad hoc committee, I'm sure the Madlanga Commission is going to say, did you or did you not commit crime by misrepresenting all those other processes that would lead to the disbandment? Okay. And before you ask me, if there's to be any charge, would it be, they would want to find out if there was any element, amongst others, of defeating the ends of justice, as well as helping organized crime syndicates to infiltrate the law enforcement agency, amongst other things. That is what will happen at the first day. There's going to be a serious exchange of fire from tomorrow.
Andy Mashaile, thank you so much for your time. Security strategist and retired Interpol Ambassador, helping us to make sense of the first day, now that we know of evidence by Imogen Mashazi, the former Ekurhuleni city manager. Stay with SABC News for all the latest from the Madlanga Commission this week.